There comes a moment in your life when you have to decide what deserves your energy and what doesn't. It's not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's you sitting alone and realizing you're tired, not just tired of people, but tired of giving your peace away for free. You want clarity. You want progress. You want peace. But first, you need to learn how to stay unbothered and focused. That doesn't mean you never feel things. It means you don't let every feeling run your life. It means you stop giving people the keys to your emotional car. You don't need to accelerate every time someone presses your buttons. Emotions are natural, but they're not dictators. They're messengers. And you have the right to read the message without acting on it. That's where maturity lives. You're not weak for choosing silence. You're wise. People will try to pull you into chaos they're used to living in. But you're building something they can't see. You're building inner strength. And sometimes that strength looks like pausing, breathing, letting things pass without dragging you down. Silence isn't absence, it's restraint. And in a loud world, restraint is power. You also learn to stop pleasing everyone, because when you're always adjusting yourself to be accepted, you lose your edge, your voice, your sense of direction. You don't need to explain why you said no. You don't need to justify your peace. Boundaries are not cruelty. They are clarity. They don't push people away. They protect the version of you that you've worked hard to become. Not everything deserves a reaction. Not every message needs a reply. Not every opinion is worth entertaining. When you know what you're focused on, distractions start to look like distractions. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. And when you get intentional, everything shifts. You don't chase closure, you choose peace. You don't argue to win, you walk away to grow. You clean up your mental space. You mute the noise. You stop scrolling for validation. You stop feeding cycles that exhaust your spirit. Because focus isn't just about where your eyes are, it's about where your life is going. Every app, every conversation, every habit, it's either building you or breaking you. Choose wisely. And the truth is, when your focus is tied to your purpose, the nonsense doesn't hit the same. You've got places to be, people to help, work to do. You're not here to get distracted. You're here to be disciplined, because discipline isn't punishment, it's freedom. And peace isn't passive, it's built. So next time they try to bait you into reacting, remember this: you don't have to prove your worth in every battle. Sometimes the most powerful move is no move at all. You stay grounded, you stay intentional, you stay unbothered, and you focus forward. Emotions are part of being human. They rise up, sometimes suddenly, and they can be loud, persuasive, even overwhelming. But here's the truth. Just because a feeling shows up doesn't mean it gets to take over. Emotions are signals, not commands. That simple shift in mindset changes everything. You can feel anger, but that doesn't mean you have to lash out. You can feel hurt, but that doesn't mean you need to spiral or break down. We're allowed to feel without reacting. You're allowed to pause, to breathe, and to ask yourself, is this feeling leading me somewhere healthy, or am I just letting it drive me without direction? Most people live on emotional autopilot. Something happens, they react. Someone says something disrespectful, they snap. A plan doesn't go their way, they spiral. But when you start treating your emotions like notifications rather than instructions, you start gaining back your control. Just like a phone notification, you get to decide whether to open it, ignore it, or silence it altogether. The power lies in the awareness. Emotional triggers don't disappear overnight, but what changes is your relationship with them. Instead of being a slave to your feelings, you become a student of them. You observe them. You learn from them. You use them as data, not destiny. Staying unbothered doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you choose what deserves your energy. That's where the discipline comes in. There's a moment, a small, sacred pause between the feeling and the reaction. And in that pause is where your power sits. That pause is where you get to choose whether this moment needs a response or just your silence. Whether this tension deserves your involvement or your peace. Whether this discomfort is teaching you or trying to trap you. Think of emotions like waves. They rise, they crash, and then they settle. You don't have to dive into every one of them. You can let it pass. You can ground yourself while the wave moves. That's emotional maturity. That's how you stay calm when everything around you is shaking. You don't suppress what you feel, you respect it. You just stop letting it make decisions for you. Over time, this becomes a habit. You stop jumping at every provocation. You stop allowing people to puppet your reactions. You stop being controlled by temporary emotions and start making permanent decisions based on long-term clarity. You grow quieter, not weaker. You become more still, not more passive. Because deep down, you know you're no longer living at the mercy of what rises. You're living from the strength of what's rooted. And the more rooted you are, the less shaken you'll be. There's a difference between reacting and responding. Reaction is immediate, emotional, and often regrettable. Response is thoughtful, controlled, and rooted in clarity. And the space between the two is called the pause. That moment when your body tightens, your heart races, and your thoughts start running, right there is where you either lose control or take it back. Mastering the pause means choosing stillness when chaos is tempting. It's not weakness, it's restraint. And restraint is what keeps you grounded. When the world wants to pull you into every argument, every drama, every distraction, the pause is not just silence, it's strategy. When someone says something triggering, your instincts may scream to clap back, but in that pause, you ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Is this aligned with who I want to be? That question alone has saved people from making choices that could cost them relationships, jobs, peace, or progress. Just because someone hands you an invitation to chaos doesn't mean you have to RSVP. And the beauty is, the longer you practice the pause, the stronger you get at saying no without guilt, walking away without fear, and standing still without apology. The pause also gives you time to understand what's really happening inside. Sometimes what looks like anger is actually disappointment. What feels like disrespect is actually a mirror of old wounds. Without a pause, we often misread the situation. We speak from pain instead of clarity. But when you learn to stop and breathe, even for 5 seconds, you get a chance to reset. You get to break the loop of instant reaction. That's not just emotional intelligence. That's power. People who can't pause are controlled by their surroundings. They get pulled in every direction. They're tired, drained, and constantly apologizing for words and actions they didn't mean. But people who do pause, they walk different. They speak slower, not because they're unsure, but because they're measured. They respond with intention, not impulse. They don't let small things steal their peace because they've trained themselves to wait before acting. They've learned that sometimes the best response is no response, that silence doesn't mean defeat, it means control. Pausing doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough about yourself not to be reckless. It means you value your emotional energy enough to spend it where it counts. The pause is what separates growth from reaction, progress from drama, and wisdom from ego. It may seem like a small habit, but it builds a quiet strength that others can feel. And when you make that strength your default, life doesn't throw you off balance as easily. You stop being available to nonsense, you stop being predictable, and most importantly, you start becoming the kind of person that doesn't just move through life, but moves with purpose. Being unbothered doesn't mean you cut everyone off or build walls so high no one can reach you. It means you create boundaries that make it clear how you deserve to be treated. There's a big difference. Walls are built out of fear. Boundaries are built out of respect, first for yourself, then for others. They're not meant to push people away, but to protect your peace, your focus, and your time. Because when you don't have boundaries, you end up saying yes when you mean no, letting disrespect slide, and constantly adjusting yourself to make others comfortable, even when it costs you your own balance. Boundaries aren't just about what you say, they're about how you live. If you say you value your time but always let people interrupt your schedule, that's not a boundary. It's a preference. Boundaries show up in your actions. It's choosing not to answer every call when you're working on something important. It's deciding that not every message gets an immediate reply, especially if it's draining your focus. It's not about being rude. It's about being clear. And clarity is kindness. When people know what to expect from you, they stop guessing, and more importantly, they stop overstepping. But here's the hard truth. Some people will not like your boundaries, not because they're wrong, but because your limits expose their entitlement. The moment you start saying, that doesn't work for me, or I'm not available for that conversation, you'll see who truly respects you and who just benefited from your silence. That clarity will cost you some relationships, but it will also protect your soul. You have to get comfortable with the fact that being misunderstood is part of protecting your peace. You don't owe everyone an explanation. You don't need to soften your truth to make others feel better. People who love you will adjust. People who only used you will leave. Either way, you win. Because when your peace becomes more important than people pleasing, that's when you start living on your terms. Staying focused means saying no more than you say yes. It means drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is what I allow in my life. Not everything needs access to you. Not everyone deserves your time. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to pick up every emotional bag handed to you. Some things you just let go, not because you don't care, but because you care more about protecting your clarity. Boundaries don't make you selfish. They make you responsible for your energy, your space, and your peace. They allow you to stop reacting and start living. And when your boundaries are strong, your focus sharpens, the noise fades, the distractions shrink, and you start showing up fully confident, clear, and unbothered. You can't control everything that happens around you, but you can absolutely control how you respond to it. That's where your power lives. Staying unbothered and focused doesn't come from trying to fix the world or stop people from being who they are. It comes from mastering what's yours to manage. Your attitude, your reactions, your attention, that's your territory. And when you protect that territory, you stop letting outside forces run your internal world. Life will test you, people will misunderstand you, plans will fall apart, but your response is still yours. And every time you choose calm over chaos, grace over anger, focus over drama, you're building something strong. People waste so much energy trying to control things that aren't theirs. They chase approval. They try to force outcomes. They argue just to prove a point. And in the process, they drain themselves. But when you shift your mindset from control to responsibility, everything changes. You stop asking, why are they like this? And start asking, how do I want to show up? You stop trying to change people and start changing your proximity to them. You stop getting tangled in emotions that don't belong to you. That's how you keep your peace. It's not about changing the storm. It's about anchoring yourself in the middle of it. You protect your focus by being ruthless with your time and intentional with your choices. You don't chase every opportunity. You don't engage every critic. You don't respond to every text because you know that not everything deserves a piece of you. You understand that attention is a currency and you're not spending it where there's no return. And when you live like that, people may call you distant, cold, or even arrogant, but they're not seeing the full picture. They're only seeing what you've decided to give access to. And that's your right. Being in control of yourself doesn't mean life doesn't hit hard. It means you don't crumble when it does. It means you trained your mind to be steady, your spirit to be resilient, and your focus to stay locked in even when the ground is shaking. It means you've learned that discipline isn't just about habits. It's about protection, protecting your growth, your purpose, and your peace from the noise that wants to pull you away. So when the world gets loud, when people come at you with opinions, when things don't go as planned, remember what's in your hands, your focus, your presence, your energy. And when you commit to controlling what's yours, you'll stop trying to fix what was never your job in the first place. You'll stay centered, you'll stay clear, and you'll move through life with a kind of power that doesn't need to announce itself because it's steady, quiet, and undeniable. Your mind is your environment. If it's cluttered, chaotic, filled with noise, it doesn't matter how many goals you set, you won't move forward with clarity. That's why staying focused starts with cleaning up what's going on inside. Too many people try to concentrate while carrying the weight of yesterday's drama, the distractions of today's notifications, and the anxiety of tomorrow's unknowns. That kind of mental load will drain you before you even begin. So if you want to stay unbothered, you start by decluttering your mental space. Intentionally, consistently, and unapologetically. That means stepping back from people who bring more confusion than clarity. It means muting the voices that plant seeds of doubt or comparison in your mind. Sometimes it means sitting in silence just to hear your own thoughts again. Because we live in a world where being busy is confused with being productive. But if your mind is running in circles, reacting to every ping, every post, every problem, you're not making progress, you're just chasing noise. And that noise becomes internal. It makes you question yourself. It makes you overthink. It keeps you emotionally tired, even when you haven't done anything physically exhausting. Focus requires mental discipline, not perfection, but awareness. You notice what pulls your energy and you remove it. You notice the patterns that distract you and you change them. Maybe that's starting your day without checking your phone. Maybe it's journaling instead of venting. Maybe it's protecting a sacred hour of the day where no one gets access to you. These aren't luxury habits. These are survival tools for a focused life. Because in a world constantly trying to grab your attention, stillness is rebellion and clarity is a weapon. You also have to start challenging your own thoughts. Not every idea that crosses your mind deserves your belief. Your brain will replay old fears, insecurities, criticisms. It will tell you stories that don't align with the person you're trying to become. And if you don't challenge those thoughts, if you don't question them, they become your narrative. And that's why mindset isn't just positive thinking. It's active thinking. It's noticing what's true, what's useful, and what needs to be deleted. Decluttering your mental space also means protecting your energy from emotional loops. The ones where you replay conversations, imagine worst-case scenarios, or overanalyze people's motives. All of that thinking feels like doing, but it's just draining. It doesn't move you forward, it keeps you stuck. So instead of feeding those loops, you learn to redirect. Back to what matters, back to what's real, back to your goals, your peace, your progress. The more you clear out the noise, the more you hear yourself, your real voice, the one that knows what you want, the one that's not performing or pleasing or pretending. That voice is where your focus lives. And when you stay connected to it, life gets simpler, not easier, but clearer. You know what to give your time to, you know what to walk away from, and you carry yourself with a quiet certainty that doesn't need validation to feel real. When you know why you're doing what you're doing, distractions lose their grip. Focus becomes natural. You stop getting pulled into every petty situation because your purpose is louder than the noise. That's what it means to align your focus with purpose. It means you've taken the time to get clear on what matters to you, where you're going, and who you're becoming. And once that clarity sets in, the drama, the gossip, the opinions, they all shrink. Not because they've disappeared, but because they don't fit into the life you're building anymore. Purpose gives your focus a destination. It turns daily actions into meaningful steps. Without it, you're just moving, reacting, floating from task to task, crisis to crisis. But when you're grounded in purpose, even the smallest step forward carries weight. You're not chasing attention. You're not jumping into every conversation just to feel seen. You're working with intention, quietly, consistently, and that kind of focus intimidates people who thrive in chaos because you're not playing their game anymore. You've built your own. When your focus is rooted in something real, your values, your vision, your higher calling, you don't need to defend yourself constantly. You're not thrown off by every comment or look or misunderstanding. You're not perfect, but you're steady because you know what you're building and you're not going to burn it down just to prove a point. That's the power of alignment. It protects you from self-sabotage. It keeps you centered even when everything around you feels unsteady. Purpose also filters your choices. You don't say yes out of guilt anymore. You say yes because it fits. You say no because it doesn't. That's not selfish, it's focused. You stop being everywhere for everyone. You start being intentional with your time, your circle, your commitments. You give less of yourself to things that don't matter and more of yourself to the things that do. That shift changes everything. Your conversations get deeper, your results get stronger, your life gets quieter, but fuller. And the beautiful part is, when you're focused on your purpose, you stop needing constant motivation. You don't wake up waiting for inspiration. You wake up knowing what needs to be done. You don't need loud goals or flashy announcements. You're not performing, you're living. And people might not understand it. They might think you've changed. They're right. You've changed direction. You've changed standards. You've changed the way you respond to life. And that changed didn't come from anger or bitterness. It came from clarity. When focus meets purpose, life doesn't get perfect, but it gets real. You stop chasing distractions because you're finally moving in alignment. You're not running from yourself anymore. You're walking with yourself. You're not seeking validation. You're living in conviction. And that's the kind of unbothered that can't be shaken. The kind that doesn't need to shout because it's already grounded, steady, clear, unstoppable,